I missed the press conference, and I'm sure this was a question then, but I'm going to ask it again. The fight scene with Bruce Willis is obviously the centerpiece of this, and presumably something that you had to really focus on as well, since that's, you know, the most demanding action scene, but probably in the whole movie of anybody. So what goes into that, and, you know, what's the conversation with you and Bruce and the choreographer and Robert and everybody?
Well, that was a very intense and gritty kind of an experience, really. We had about 3.5 weeks of training with our stunt team.
Just focusing on this one scene.
Just focusing on this one scene. It took us about 2.5 weeks to shoot. We didn't shoot it, day after day. We would shoot a bit, and then they'd rearrange the office and come back and shoot some more. Bruce and I did the majority of our own stuff, so we really kind of tried to push the envelope, keep it within the bounds of safety, and go for each other. And it's one of the grittiest, hardcore fights that I've ever done in my career, and I think he's said the same thing.
Wow, and that's saying a lot coming from Bruce Willis.
From Bruce Willis,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, when you preparing for something that's that much grittier, like what is that extra? You know, you've done plenty of action before, but what is that added level in that, in terms of training or mental preparedness, or how to act through it?
We just have to take it to the next level, and that's what we did. And thankfully, we had really wonderful support in the stunt team. They were guys who did Sherlock Holmes. So
and that's got plenty of hand to hand.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
excellent. And it was just about a daily routine of getting in there, and like you would do a gym workout or something. It was, we would do fight training, start with the basics, and at one point they showed me what the end game was, and that's like a mixed martial arts, which is kind of the style of what the fight is in many ways. And it was to choke your opponent out, knock him out. And they showed me what the end game was by choking me out. So I actually get to the point where I was just about to black out. I'm like, okay, yeah, I got it. I understand. So
that's real method acting right there.
Just to give me a sense of what it was like.
Yeah, jeez. Well, when we meet your character at the beginning of this, is there's the hanging, talking on the phone to the kids, and it's really glib and like really dark and funny at the same time, and there's an arc in there. Like it seems at first like you're kind of overplaying the like stern meanness almost to the point of comedy, but by the end there's kind of this development into a real character. And I wondered if that is that something that you bring, or is that something that we just feel in the way that the movie is put together?
Well, no, I mean it's sort of. That occurs by construct of the way the script's written. He's established, my character William Cooper is established as a CIA hitman, and he's hardcore, and at the same time you find out that he's trying to balance this family life, which to me immediately is quite unique. I haven't seen that kind of
for the bad guy,
but he's not. He's not really the stereotypical bad guy.
No.
In fact, he's not the bad guy in this film. It's very much a case of would the real bad guy stand up. And the wonderful thing about it is that there is a really, quite a great arc from where my character starts this film, to where he finishes. So that was, a major attraction for me. Getting to work with the likes of Bruce and Helen and John and Ernest Borgnine.
Yeah, you kind of have his big scene.
Yeah, I have. Well, Bruce has a scene with him, and I have a scene with him, and he was incredible to work with. I mean, he is.
Well, this morning at the press conference, he's
hilarious.
Yeah.
Did he tell you his secret of longevity?
Oh my God, yeah. I kind of knew it, and then I was wondering if he was going to tell us again, and he did, and he.
Hey, whatever floats your boat.
He says he's 93, so who cares? And you can't argue with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, I talked to Lorenzo earlier, and he talked about kind of the vibe between getting all these people together, but you're kind of only in that one last scene, and when the whole gang gets together, are you really part of that? So I mean, in that kind of warehouse where you've got this many stars and 8 different stars of the movie, like how does that even work logistically when you've got that many people doing an action scene in a warehouse?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that was pretty atypical of the entire shoot. It was a very ambitious shoot in nature, and certainly in a scene like that where you have everybody on deck. It took us a good 4 or 5 days to shoot that sequence. Because everybody gets their coverage, and it was such an enormous undertaking, and we had sort of effects with squibs going off and gunfire, and it was a whole dealio. But for me, it was actually a pretty brutally cold. It was an abandoned power plant, and
In Toronto, right?
in Toronto. It was literally one of the toughest. It was like -7 inside there.
Jeez. So there's no glamour involved in something like that.
You know what? I think that's the perception, that there's a great degree of glamour involved, and certainly when you're going to premieres, and there is that aspect to it. But the reality of filmmaking is trench warfare.
Yeah. And on something like this, when you've got, is there the banding together when you're all in there? I mean, even if you're Bruce Willis, you're still stuck in the warehouse. Like, do you all just kind of suck it up and band together in that kind of
that
context?
was the great thing, about working on this film, is that I found that everybody was, there for each other, and it was a really, wonderfully supportive cast, and we had fun. We had a lot of fun, and I think you can see that on screen. I had the great benefit of watching this film for the first time with an audience in Austin, and I'm really grateful that was my first experience, because they just laughed and laughed and laughed, and sometimes when you're close to a project, you don't get a sense of how funny it is, because you've lived with it for a year, and so to get that reaction from the audience was wonderful.
Well, I've gotten that from a lot of people who we talked to today, that maybe when you were making it, you didn't quite realize how funny it was going to wind up being in the final product.
I don't really think anybody had a clear handle on what the tone of the film was going to be, and it's really finely balanced.
It changes a lot, yeah.
Yeah, and if anything, I mean, I'm kind of the straight guy of the piece. I really represent the reality of what's going on. I'm trying to hunt down and kill these guys, and they're having a lot of fun along the way, and for me, it's I'm kind of like the predator.
Yeah, well, you've kind of done that a fair amount of times lately, like doing the straight balance. Well, there's crazier things going on back and forth.
It's funny you should say that. I mean, it seemed to me to be for a while that I was the go-to guy that the studio would hire when they wanted the star of their film almost killed. So.
Maybe not anymore, though.
Yeah, no.
Well, between finding with Bruce Willis, then you've got the Sylvester Stallone lineage coming up with Judge Dredd. You're like bumping up to this action star pedigree, and you beat up Bruce Willis. You're taking over Sylvester Stallone's role. Do you feel like that pressure in there, or like a sense of stepping up, or do you not think of it in those terms?
No, I don't. To me, I never really. It wouldn't benefit me to think about. Things that way. I just focus on, my job, character by character, and project by project. And, I feel pretty blessed going into Dread, that we've got a really great script written by Alex Garland, a fantastic director in Pete Travis, and they're putting together, really an amazing cast. And, we have the support of John Wagner, who created the character in '77, and we're going to be, our film is not in no way, shape, or form related to the version that Mr. Stallone did, who, even by his own admission in an interview, said that he felt that it was a missed opportunity. So I'm looking forward to it. I think we're going to do something that's gritty and hardcore, and really grounded in reality. It's not going to feel like we're shooting it on the back lot in Hollywood. It's going to feel like this is a real, real city that's aesthetically touchable and has depth and layers.
Did Star Trek prepare you to the extent to which people have been like obsessed with the helmet and with every little detail about Judge Dredd? People are kind of worried about. Did signing on to the Star Trek reboot, which was equally people worried about, did that prepare you for this?
Well, I mean, I think I can understand people's anxiety when it comes to Dredd, because the way the character was initially designed and conceived and executed was that his identity would remain secret, and that was always part of the enigma of Dredd. So as soon as you remove the helmet, you're blowing the enigma.
Yeah.
And we certainly have. We can have fun with it, but we certainly have no plans to deviate from what John Wagner created. Sorry, and how was that
Oh,
released?
just the idea of fans being panicked about something. It seems like
Yeah.
that happened a lot on Star Trek too.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I've encountered that a few times. I mean, I worked on Lord of the Rings
Yeah,
and
yeah, of
had the
course.
same thing in Star Trek. But I have to say, as a long term fan of Star Trek, I myself was I had sort of concerns as to how are we going to pull this off. I mean, it was those characters, the look of the original show, it's iconic stuff, and I think it's just a real testament to the genius of J.J. Abrams and Roberto Orci and Alex Kurtzman, and the wonderful design team and that they had on that. And I'm looking forward to shooting the next one.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to seeing
Yeah.
it.